Hello, welcome back to week 5 of the Lant Draft League, Lant Lumion Legacy Draft League. Uh, this is a match between Apollo and Jirachi, of course. Both of these teams incredibly strong. Jirachi is currently undefeated with his uncontested reign, but Apollo having one of the most dangerous cores in the game, being Nova Deus and Pronsu. The Pronsu being boosted by Jirachi's reign as well, being incredibly threatening. Apollo features, of course, as I've just said, Novadeus Pronsu, but also Florant, Cosmere Unleashed, Dokumori, Weaselin, Sinogar, Cornucopia, of course, the Goat, Dorego, and Conquerdon. Meanwhile, Jirachi has Skellic, Deladrix, which is restricted, Oxydrake, Parasol, Icyghoul, Umbra, Malamurk, Banfino, Copling, Sharpod, Hydrany, and Peripod. All extremely potent rain threats. I see Parasol getting that stab boost from rain, as well as potentially the ability Pluvial. Deladrix, of course, having incredibly strong Hydroblast, like with that Rain Rush. But also, Apollo has kind of a jack of all trades team. Dokumori with Sponge being able to soak up a lot of the water type attacks that are going to be coming out here. Florant also being incredibly strong, being a grass type into this rain matchup is just well overall. As well as you having threats like Conquerdon, while being weak to water, is incredibly good with the threat of Terrifying on the table. Novadeus, of course, is incredibly strong, and then Pronto we've already discussed. So both these teams are not to be investigated, underestimated in the slightest. I'll let them know that I'm all set, and we'll see where this ends up. I'm going to be commentating solo today. I don't have anybody to commentate with me. Usually it would be Apollo, but Apollo is kind of battling right now, so that's going to be a bit of an issue. But either way, we're just waiting on Apollo. Oh, speak of the devil. But yeah, once this matchup starts, I feel like this is going to be incredibly entertaining between the two of them. Having multiple threats on both sides. I'm unsure how one's going to deal with both. And we see them now go into Team Select, which I figure is now just a better time to start talking about some of the sets that they can run. Of course, Novadeus can run many things. Novadeus has screens. Novadeus has incredibly strong moves. Even if it is weak to the rain, it's incredible the amount of power that it can have, especially when you consider that it can run items like Wave Pearl to lessen the damage that it'll take. But yeah, Wave Pearl being threatening. Then we have Pronsu, which has incredibly strong shell shrapnels, being able to deal a lot of damage. Florant obviously can be a very bulky set, but can also be run more offensively. Due to Carnivorous Snap going through Dodge, Dodge isn't really a safe play to go through, and so you can just kind of take a kill on anything that you want, which sounds silly, but considering that it's a majority water team, and while yes, there are few. Oh, here we are. Seeing a Conquerdon and Cosmere lead from Apollo as we see Deladrix and Skellig come from the side of Jirachi. Conquerdon's terrifying, lowering the melee attack of Deladrix and Skellig, combative from the Skellig, getting that +1 boost. Both of these Lumias being incredibly threatening. Over to this Conquerdon, we're probably going to be seeing a Soul Burst coming from this Skellig, getting that doubled speed from Rain Rush, and potentially just being able to sweep the game with that +1. Apollo does not have standard weather control. We actually see Weaselin coming in, though Skellig uses dodge, not soul bursting just quite yet. Cosmere himself uses dodge, as Bellatrix uses Fairy Blast onto the opposing Cosmere, which dodged the move. Weaselin trades his Heavy Shackles for Bellatrix's Specialty Goggles. Now this Bellatrix is going to be the slowest thing on the field no matter what. It's going to be moving last in the priority bracket at all turns, meaning that this Bellatrix is effectively not useless. It's nowhere near useless considering that it still has incredibly high damage output, but it does not have the speed and can much more easily be neglected. However, this Weaselin can still provide incredible support, such as bait. I think Rant is also on the table, but I'm not sure how much you want to Rant when there is a combative Skellig on the field. Cosmere are also quite threatening with, even if it is only +1 on the Skellig. I don't think that it can kill just yet, but dude, that's purely due to Cosmere's incredible melee defense stat, being able to take incredible amounts of hits while being able to offer spread damage through Meteor Crash, I believe. Might be Meteor Smash, but oh well. We see the Soul Burst coming from Jirachi, Soul Bursting their Skellig into their Sea Scourge form, getting that doubled speed from Rain Rush. Weaselin does in fact use bait, catching the attention of the opposing team. Skellig uses Outburst into that Weaselin, not quite picking up a one-hit KO. Meteor Smash doing honestly minimal damage onto both of them. Fairy Blast picking up the KO onto Weaselin. But now this is just another Conquerdon that can come in, lowering the melee attack of this Skellig even more. And it's not like they can use Outburst much anymore, considering their lowered defense or attack and energy. Although Skellig is just at a neutral when it comes to their defense or their attack, that does mean that they can't outgo this Cosmere. They're going to need the help of Bellatrix, who might be just getting KO'd by this Conquerdon or this Cosmere. Now that we know the items of both this Bellatrix and this Skellig, we actually see Apollo withdraw the Conquerdon going into the Florant. Cosmere does use dodge, being able to dodge any coming attacks. As Heedless Rush comes from the Skellig onto the Florant, dealing honestly minimal damage, Florant is then nourished by the rain, using Jirachi's rain against themselves. And now we know Cosmere's power isn't the strongest considering everything. However, this Florant is still incredibly powerful into this matchup. Again, picking up an Oko onto almost anything, even though it is almost all neutral. Neutral is all that you need. Apollo does decide to Soul Burst their Florant into the Flychomp. This is giving them access to A, more bulk, and B, the access to Carnivorous Snap, which I've been hyping up this entire time. Although bait does just seem like it's gonna be what it is. Although we see the Chili Chomp coming from the Skellig onto the Florant, but with all of those drops to its attack, it will survive. Although the Carnivorous Snap from the Florant onto the Bellatrix, picking up the KO, and now the... Whoa, sorry. Bane of Haste coming from the Cosmere, reversing the speed order, and now Florant is one of, if not the fastest thing on the field. But Icicle is coming in. Icicle is most definitely slower than all of these, being able to offer quad super effective damage onto this Florant, although it is being threatened by this Cosmere by its ancient type moves. Meteor Smash, incredibly threatening right now. Though we actually see Apollo withdraw the Cosmere going into the Conquerdon, lowering the melee attack of both of the opposing Lumions. See Florant going for their Briar Block, potentially dodging an Icicle Fangs and offering Chip as well. Maybe even a Chili Chomp coming from this Skellig. Although we do just see an Outburst go into the Conquerdon. And now that that is -1 melee attack, it's not doing all that much anymore to this Conquerdon. Although, don't get me wrong, this Ice School is still incredibly threatening, especially without the rain. This Florent cannot heal anymore without using moves such as Parasitize. It's already used its Carnivorous Snap, which means it's used its super effective move. So there's going to be quite a bit of reliance on this Conquerdon here. However, this Conquerdon can, of course, offer super effective damage into this skeleton in the terms of just a Vice Jaws onto this Icy Ghoul. We do actually see Oxydrake coming in from that slot, as Icicle Fangs goes into the Cosmere, and we see the Metal Shriek coming from Conquerdon onto the Icy Ghoul and the Oxydrake. Although actually activating Combative from Oxydrake, giving it +4 melee attack. And of course, Bane of Haste is currently being set up, meaning that Oxydrake is one of, if not the fastest thing on the field. Icy Ghoul swapping back to Jirachi as we introduce Skellig once again to the battlefield. Cosmere uses Dodge. But is that going to be enough into this matchup? Conquerdon uses Quicksand onto the Oxydrake, dealing passive chip along the way and trapping it in, although I don't think that Oxydrake's trapped in here with you. I think you're trapped in with Oxydrake, considering that this is incredibly threatening. Even with the passive chip that Quicksand will provide, it's still a +4 melee attack Oxydrake into your team. And you can't even hinder it with such as a Conquerdon, your Conquerdon itself, because that will just give it more and more melee attack boost. Conquerdon using Metal Shriek, risking it once more, lowering the melee defense of Skellig, and activating Combative once more. It is now at +6 melee attack. Primal Slash going into Cosmere, most definitely picking up a KO. Skellig using Chili Chomp onto this Conquerdon, just doing as much damage as it can. Bane of Haste Curse has now ended, and of course Milkshake bringing it back up, removing almost all chip that has been done. Florent now coming out, and with the Chili Chomp onto the Skellig, this looks like a game lost for Apollo, as neither of these Lumions can really threaten Oxydrake before Oxydrake threatens you. Even without Bane of Haste, Oxydrake is incredibly threatening, and can even set Bane of Haste back up. So no matter how much damage you want to do to it, it's always going to be outspeeding. Florent using Briar Block, potentially just getting more chip onto Skellig's Chili Chomp, which in fact does. Skellig was hurt by the opposing Briar Block, and Primal Slash was also protected by the Briar Block, getting more and more chip. This might be everything that Apollo needs to get rid of this Oxydrake, but it's just not quite enough, although a potential double dodge onto this from this Florent will be enough to pick up the KO onto this Oxydrake. It's all just up to whether this Conquerdon decides to use dodge, making sure that this is a KO. Skellig returns to the pocket of Jirachi. As we introduce Ice School back up, Florent uses Briar Block and gets the successful double block. Primal Slash going into the Briar Block, picking up the KO, not being able to do almost anything with that +6. As Conquerdon does in fact use Vice Jaws onto the Ice School, but its incredible melee will only make sure that it's down to half health. Skellig gets reintroduced to the field. It is a 2 against 2. Although one Ice type and one Ice type coverage against this Florent. This Florent is not liking this matchup into the slightest. However, this Conquerdon still able to put in a lot of effort into this. But will it be enough? If Florent's able to pull off a triple dodge, that would be crazy. But I don't think that's ever happening in this scenario. I don't think that's ever something you want to risk. I think there are other ways around it. Skellig waits out the turn, making sure that they get as much outburst energy as they potentially can. Triple Briar Block coming from Apollo. So close, but so far. Icicle Fangs picking up the final KO that is needed onto this Lant. And now it is a 1 versus 2, Conquerodon versus Icicle and Skellic. Both potential super effective moves. Wave Wrecker picking up all that is needed. Conquerodon using Vice Jaws onto Icicle, not even trying to get information. And this will be a game 1 set take. Apollo's using everything that they can to stay alive, but it's not going to be enough. Beautifully timed wait earlier from Jirachi. Conquerodon is officially waiting out this turn. As Conquerodon finally faints. What a game 1. That's all that I gotta say. What a game 1. I expect to see a lot of similar coming from both of these teams, both incredibly threatening. Either way, Game 2 is coming back. Jirachi still undefeated, looking like he's going to take the whole set. But Apollo most definitely has the tools to be able to fight back. Dokomori and Frontsu being led out versus Beldrix and Banfino. Dokomori being incredibly threatening right now, more threatening than one might be able to see. Providing quad super effective damage to this Banfino, healing from any water-type moves that the Stellatrix or Banfino will throw out. So, I'd say that this is pretty good. This is a pretty good switch from Apollo. Banfino using Nature's Force into the Frontsu. Dealing quite good damage as Fair Blast goes into the Dokomori, dealing over half. Baneful Bash picking up a one-hit KO, quad super effective onto the Banfino. And Bane of Haste from the Banfino. Will this work this time? That's my question. Will this work this time around? Because we saw how it had worked out the previous time. It didn't work out well, because then the Oxdrift caused the +6 in Bane of Haste, which it didn't even have to set up itself. My question is, did Jirachi even bring Oxydrake this time? It's obvious that there would be a switch, but no, we do just see the Skellic come out. Still offering incredible support with Chili Chomp onto this Dokomori, but Frontsu is still incredible here, as it still does have those incredibly powerful shell shrapnels. We do see the swap from Beldrix to Oxydrake as Dokomori uses Baneful Bash. Frontsu using Fair Blast, healing up the Dokomori, actually going second over base speed Skellic. Skellic does just go for a Chili Chomp onto this Dokomori, which has been getting incredible support from this Frontsu, surprisingly enough. This seems to be a game which is focused onto this Dokomori. Will this Dokomori be able to survive long enough to be able to thrive in this scene here? Frontsu does swap out, not risking anything. We see the dodge from the Dokomori, Weasel swapping in. And now we know what Apollo's trying to do here. Apollo's trying to get the heavy shackles onto this Octadrake, and he succeeds with it spectacularly. Bait pressures on the table. This Weaselin does have a milkshake, so it's going to be able to heal up a lot. That's going to be able to be thrown at this other team. Dokumori using Bane Slash onto the Skellig, picking up massive damage. Skellig using Chili Chomp into this Weaselin because of the bait, letting Weaselin drink its milkshake and recover 25% HP. And we actually see the Metal Shriek coming from Octadrake, hitting the Dokumori, hitting the Weaselin, ignoring the bait because it is a spread move, making sure that it affects both of the opposing Lumians. But now we actually learn that this Octadrake is slower than Skellig, and slower than Dokumori, as Dokumori did move first. If Dokumori has Earthquake here, this can be incredible. Apollo withdraws the Weaselin, bringing in the Ponsu. Dokumori using dodge, just resetting the boost, any boosts. Skellig uses dodge. Octadrake uses Primal Slash onto this Ponsu. However, now the Bane of Haste curse has ended, meaning that this Octadrake is one of the fastest Lumians on the field, but so is the Rain. So even without dynamic speed, this Skellig will not be able to outspeed, or would be able to outspeed everything this turn if Octadrake does decide to swap into Bellatrix. However, Weaselin is on the field. Octadrake does swap out into what I'm assuming is Bellatrix. Yes, it is. Skellig's most likely going to be Soul Bursting this turn. Yes, it is. Jirachi deciding to Soul Burst Skellig into its Sea Scourge form. But Weaselin is currently on the field, still offering massive amounts of support to this Octadrake. Weaselin using bait with all that HP still left. Heedless Rush onto the Weaselin, picking up the one-hit KO with the critical hit. Dokumori using Baneful Dash onto the Skellig, picking up the KO. Now Dokumori is out of energy, well, with whatever Lumian it has second, Octadrake being sent out first this turn. Florant being sent up second. I mean, this Dokumori is going to be safe and sound for the next long time, considering that this Florant's going to be able to get healing this turn. Dokumori is still going to be incredibly threatening with threats of Baneful Dash, Earthquake being quad resisted by its partner Florant. All it needs to do is be able to rest this turn. Hydroblast cannot hit it due to the Sponge ability that has been revealed. Apollo deciding to Soul Burst Florant into its Fly Chomp form. And personally, I think we're going to a game 3 here. Seems to be incredibly well positioned from Apollo. Fly Chomp Florant getting revealed once again onto this battlefield. Dokumori waiting out this turn, not risking anything else. Jetstream going onto this Florant, dealing huge amounts of damage. Although Florant using Carnivorous Snap onto the Stellatrix, picking up a one-hit KO. Metal Shriek not gonna be doing enough in this battle here. This Dokumori is too threatening to this Octadrake. This Florant being healed by the rain, no matter how many boosts you have. Octadrake does not have any damaging spread moves that can hit both of these at once. Florant uses Bulk Up, revealing tech that could have been saved for game 3. Dokumori using Quicksand onto this Octadrake once again. Octadrake trapped into Quicksand. Primal Slash going onto this Dokumori. We better hope that this is Vice Jaws coming from Apollo. Okay, it is Vice Jaws. Okay. Either way, Oxydrake's not doing enough damage here. Vice Jaws picking up the KO finally for the last time here, and it stopped raining, and that is it. We are going to a Game 3. I feel like Jirachi's gonna go back to their Game 1 strategy, Apollo's gonna keep with their Game 2 strategy. The question is, what little adaptation, will they make any adapts in the game, or will they not? Will they just stick to the 4 Loomies that they used Game 1, Game 2? Or will they actually swap up? I feel like we're gonna see Jirachi swap back to their Game 1 plan here, considering that was so strong into Apollo's team. Although it was only so strong because of the boost that every single Lumion was getting from, you know, Conquerodon's terrifying drops and Metal Shriek giving Oxydrake that +6. Even though it wasn't able to do much with it because of that double Briar Block and Quicksand Chip, it was still able to put enough pressure that Apollo wasn't able to get enough done. This team select is deciding the Game 3 of both of them here. Sinogre and Florant coming from Apollo's side, Deladrix and Skelet coming from Jirachi's. Rain Summon and Shakedown, revealing everything that we already know. Now, Florant is, of course, always threatening, although it is going to be taking a lot of damage from both of these Lumions. Sinogre is not in the best position as well, with the threat of an outburst coming from the Skelet. I'm excited to see on what this Sinogre is going to be able to do, because we haven't seen all too much of it considerably in this draft league. Florant swaps out into the Weaselin, potentially giving Deladrix the Heavy Shackles, making it lose last any priority bracket. We see Skelet Soul Bursting into its Sea Scourge form, getting that Rain Rush ability and doubled speed. Soul Bursting is one of the only cases of dynamic speed in this game. Sinogre using Dodge, Skelet using Outburst, successfully being dodged. As Deladrix uses Douse into the Sinogre, as Trader activates, giving Deladrix the Heavy Shackles item. Weaselin uses Teamwork onto this Sinogre. Skelet uses Heedless Rush onto this Weaselin. Sinogre uses Luck Blast, picking up the one-hit KO with the critical hit onto Skelet. Deladrix using Hydro Blast, picking up the KO onto Weaselin, but not doing enough to Sinogre. We can potentially see a Doku Mori be coming in here. No, we actually see Kagura. Apollo left the Doku Mori that was so crucial in Game 2 behind. but he left it for the Cosmere, which can offer insane support considering that it now outsees both of these Loomians, considering that Delatrix has the Heavy Shackles item, meaning that it will be moving last no matter what happens here. Meteor Smash doing what I would say to be minimal damage onto both of these. Although Muck Blast from the Sinogre will be picking up the KO. Although we do just see Icicle coming back out. Oxydrake had an incredibly powerful Hydro Blast. Icicle having incredibly powerful Spirit type moves onto this Sinogre. Although it's still being threatened by this Cosmere, Meteor Smash is doing minimal damage, what I would consider to say, onto this Oxydrake. Only doing probably about 15%. I don't know my percentages that much. But I'd say that's about a good amount to say. We did see the Bane of Haste go up, meaning that both the Icicle and the Oxydrake are still incredibly threatening. We do see the Icicle Fangs going into this Sinogre, and the Muck Blast doing very little damage onto this Icicle. Ancient Pearl Sinogre makes sure that it hangs on for just one more, no less. And Meteor Smash is still doing so little damage. But it's the best move that Apollo's got. Sinogre just hanging on for one more. But I don't think it's going to be able to survive this Icicle Fangs from Icicle. Sinogre does use Dodge. Icicle using Icicle Fangs into the Sinogre, which dodges the move. Oxydrake using Primal Slash onto this Cosmere, dealing just barely under 50% HP. Meteor Smash super effective onto Icicle, but not doing much to the Oxydrake still. Just trying to stall it as much of this Bane of Haste as we can. Just for it to probably be set right back up at the end of it. Icicle using Icicle Fangs onto this Sinogre, just doing just enough damage. Primal Slash being dodged by the opposing Cosmere. Florant now coming out in front of Icicle, which is a Ice-type Loomian quad super effective damage onto this Florant. However, this Cosmere is still very threatening, even if it hasn't been doing too much damage considerably. Onto this either this Icicle or this Oxydrake. This is the final turn of Bane of Haste, which means it'll be moving first the next turn. And I believe it does survive one more Primal Slash from Oxydrake. Unless it does get the critical hit, which it might just need. Apollo soul bursting his Florant into a Fly Chomp form. We can see Vice Jaws, we can see Briar Block, we can see all sorts of moves can come from this Fly Chomp. The question is, can it win the 1v1 against this Oxydrake? But we do just see a Florant going for Briar Block. Cosmere using Meteor Smash. Super effective onto the Icicle. Oxydrake drinks its milkshake. Icicle just sets right back up Bane of Haste. And Oxydrake uses Bane of Haste again. Oh! Whoops. Oxydrake, or Icicle stopping Bane of Haste. Oxydrake setting it up right back up again. That's why Cosmere gone first in the bracket outside of Lant. Cosmere going for a quick and easy dodge. Icicle Fangs picking up the one-hit KO. And all of these are out of energy. Cosmere cannot... Yeah. This is game set for Jirachi right here. Cosmere cannot do enough damage without incredible amounts of RNG. Cosmere is ready to dodge attacks. Icicle used Mega Chomp. Cosmere dodged the move. Jirachi's Primal Slash. Cosmere dodged the move. Unless he can get a quintuple dodge. And even then, I think the game is still lost. Cosmere tried to use dodge, but it failed. And it's just not a one-hit KO, but a feint from this Icicle. GG's, well played.